Ah, my dear ones, my fellow travelers in space, coming down after sleep to spend some time in the physical world. After being in sleep, up in the spiritual worlds, receiving messages, receiving rectifications, receiving impulses to then act when one wakes up back in physicality, expressions of the soul that you received while asleep. This is a very deep issue. In normative life, we think we sleep to refresh the body. Like, oh, my muscles need to sleep. The major reason for sleep is to exchange your soul for the soul that was in the body for that day. So basically, if you sleep just 60 seconds, 60 breaths, so to speak, not 60 seconds, and you receive that other soul, then you're refreshed enough. In dream, you also exercise that soul. That soul receives information, and the parting soul receives and gives some of that information. There's a soul exchange. How this happens? They've been doing a lot of this, haven't they? I mean, Freud with dream interpretation. The idea of dream interpretation in the Bible. This is not new. But somebody's asked me, and miraculously, I lost their email and message. But someone's asked me what techniques to use for a lot of this. So I'm answering them now. You can meditate on the letter, not the letter. I made a Freudian slip. You can meditate on the vowel Segol. Segol. Do you know what the Segol vowel is? That's the vowel that the Kabbalists associate with the Sapphire of Hesed. And the Segol vowel is a miraculous vowel. It's a 3 dots, the corners of a equilateral triangle. Now, usually one depicts these things with letters on top, but by a miraculous Hashkoka Protus, my letters are reversed here when I do this film, so I'm doing without the letter, and that's a real secret. Because the vowels usually associated with the letters, but the vowels have a secret of their own. And so what I want you to do is meditate on this vowel, the Segol. And in a second I'll explain why the Segol is associated with me right now. Number one, this vowel obviously represents the law of 3. It also represents looks like it could represent Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'as in between below. But if you were coming the other direction, then it could be Keter, Chokhmah, and Bina. When they do the vowel, the same Segol, I think they call it the same, when they do the cantillations, it's this. Because maybe the cantillations come from up. Anyway, if it comes from down, I like to call this Keta Das. That's that final below middle letter. I call that Keta Vadas. Okay? Keta Vadas. And I'll explain why I call it Vadas. Keta is 620. Da'as is 474. But I put a Vav in it to make it 480. See? Keta Vadas. 480 to me represents Sitra Akra. Lilith, these are all gematrias of 480. It's also Talmud. But 480 is Vadas. There are other things that one recognizes with a Vav. When you do Yibum V'Halitza, I put the Vav, and quite frankly, so did the Rambam, because the gematria of Yibum V'Halitza is 207, which is Ein Sof. And the Yibum V'Halitza certainly comes from that Ein Sof area. So for me, I call this Chokhmah, Bina, Vadas. Keta Vadas. And the total gematria of that, Chokhmah, Bina, just Keta Vadas is 1100. Anyway. The other thing that this obviously is a left, right, and center. So these are the three hands, the three legs, the triangle. The triangle means a lot if you like triangulate these lines. In Aikido, actually, the triangle is the body posture, formation, so to speak. The body makes a triangle with the two hands in the center or the two legs in the center. And it moves off of that triangle. These two could be feet on the floor, things like that. There are 3 dots here, each with 10. These are 3 yods. So the miracle of this number is 30. 30 is the Yud Hey name. 30 is the number of days that a Nazir takes his vow for. 30 is also the could be 60, because each of these yods is fully written would be 20. So it's 60 also. 60 would represent the 2 higher aspects of the soul, the Yehida and the Chaya. Yehida 37, Chaya 23, that goes to 60. That also is represented here. But the 30 days of the Nazir is what's a great symbol here, because the vowel Segul can be spelt many ways. For me, normatively it is with a Vav, Segul, but you can also spell it Segul without the Vav, Segol, Samek, Gimel, Lamed. And if you spell out Samek, Gimel, 120, Gimel, 73, that's 100, and Gimel is 67, that's 180. Let me start it again with the spelling of the Segul. The Segul, Samech, it's 120, Gimel is 73, that's 193, and Lamed, 74, that's 267. 267 is the word Nazir. And that's why I associate with this 3 vowels. This Segul, not 3 vowels, 3 yuds here, and the Segul. And there are 3 things in the oath of the Nazir, the vow of the Nazir. No hair cutting, no grapes, and no association with the dead. This great law of 3 is represented here as a 2 on top and 1 in the middle. It associates with the 3 meals of Shabbos. All other 3s also, the 3 that are called to say grace after meals. The law of 3 itself is the 3 hands, right hand, left hand, and center hand, the Yad Gadola, the Yad Hazaka, and the Yad Ramah. These are also the 3 patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Yaakov as Yisrael. And that's why I put 2 names in that center dot as Keta Da'as, because isn't that Yaakov Yisrael? There's 2 names in that center dot because that center dot is composed of the 2 sides. So I'm meditating now on that. I'm meditating on the law of 3 when I meditate on the Segul. I don't know why I didn't put it like this before. I put it all the way up here. Anyway, I meditate on the law of 3 when I meditate on the Segul. It's easy to write out this. Not even with a letter. Just the law of 3 itself is represented in Hesed. The perfect day for a meditation on this is on the first day of the week, which is what we call Sunday. So maybe try it on a Sunday, see what happens. If you think I know what's going to happen to you, I don't. I don't know what's going to happen to me. So how do I know what's going to happen to you? Do you understand that? I don't know what's going to happen to me. So don't ask me about what's going to happen to you. Do you think I know your soul and the spark of it and the million choices that you make during the day or that I make during the day? Do you have any idea of the different directions you could take? You see? Of how many people go to Google Maps? The answer is no. Every decision you make is another aspect of the soul. And what's lost in Judaism is this natural religion thing, because I'm starting to think that the mitzvot are methodologies how to get into these levels. And then when you're in these levels, you perceive certain things, like the interactions of the sparks in your food, the interactions of your environment, the interaction of environment meaning the animals in your environment, the birds, hearing the songs of birds, the people that you meet, the birds that you read of, the owl, the blackbird, the lion, how you interact with the dogs that seem to be incessantly walking in cities, in leashes, on leashes. This total environment is the source of your new soul, because you spent the entire day in this environment and then you go to sleep. There are two laws. There's the law of 3 and there's the law of 7. The law of 3 can be extended to the law of 4. In a certain sense, the law of 3, when reversed, kind of gets a different dot down that middle, so the 3 becomes the 4. The triangle becomes the square. The triangle sits on the square. In a certain sense. The whole thing, I'm going to give this in secrets kind of stuff, what I call hidden in plain sight. The whole thing is reversed. So this law of 3 is really Keta at the bottom, Chokmah Bina, and there's 7 on top. I'll explain how I've seen this, but this is just a introduction to the vowel Segol. And we'll call it that. Enter into the vowel Segol. Enter into the vowels. See what happens.